Chapter 1. The Job Interview. The small office was empty as Sophie sat there. The chair groaned under her weight, and she tucked some hair behind her ear with one hand while continuing to stare vacantly out the window. The parking lot was overgrown with dead grass. The gray concrete walls of the building did nothing to inspire, and every so often a car zipped past. This was not what she had in mind when she went into business for herself. "How did I end up here?" she murmured almost imperceptibly, her head moving slightly from side to side. She knew she had potential in her business. The pet therapist. People obviously needed help with their animals, or rather, with their connection to their animals. But still, she felt like maybe, just maybe, it was a mistake. The beginning had been rough, to say the least. She hadn't quite fathomed just how many things there would be to juggle. Leases, accounting, marketing. She just needed to pay attention to the screen in front of her. That chatbot that always had an answer ready. She sighed and looked around the office, which wasn't as elegant or cozy looking as she'd hoped. It was a bit messy, of course, just a few papers littered under her desk, but she had tried to keep things neat. Not a born leader, she confided silently to herself. However, the scariest concept of all was the idea of having to pay somebody, an employee. She cringed at the thought. She needed help. Not that she didn't want it, but it meant giving up power, something she was uncharacteristically loath to part with. Sophie was a control freak. Sophie liked to have her hands in everything. "This is my business," she stubbornly told herself. "I built this. I can't just give it to someone who doesn't understand my wants." At the same time, she realized she needed help. She couldn't meet clients. She didn't even have a car. She sighed, and that was why she had contacted Harold, an old therapist, hopefully one with experience, and more than a little off. Most importantly, he had a car. Granted, a terrible car, but a running one. Or at least she hoped it was. She glanced at the clock. Harold would be here in a few minutes. She took a deep breath and thought, if he even arrives. It would be the easy way out if he didn't, but she knew she couldn't do it alone. Even she had limits. Then she heard it. It was quiet at first, a soft rumble in the distance that gained speed and strength, like an old freight train advancing through the countryside. It was Harold. Well, Harold's Volvo. The vehicle was audible from far away, a machine that was old and falling apart, but somehow still holding on. The sound drew nearer, and Sophie clasped onto the lip of her desk. "I can do this," she thought. "This is my company. I'm the boss." Fully awake now, Sophie got up from her chair and faced the door. For a moment, she hesitated. Was she actually about to do this? Was she honestly going to hire some strange man with shadowy motives to help her solve a mystery she could hardly understand herself? Yes, she answered herself. Because despite all her doubts, she knew she couldn't run this alone. She wanted someone, and that someone happened to be Harold. The engine rumbled to a stop, and a car door slammed outside. Sophie straightened in her seat, took a deep breath, and pulled a "you can do this" look out of her gut. "Things are going to get interesting," she muttered aloud, expecting the door to open. Feigning busyness, Sophie stood. She had a folder open in front of her, with some scribbles in it related to today's interview. There had been little competition. Well, there used to be one, and that was Harold. And then Harold walked in, a big grin on his face. His wrinkled clothing and wild hair suggested he hadn't looked in the mirror much while getting ready. He reached out his hand and said,
"Hello, Sophie. Thanks for having me."
"Of course, Harold," Sophie replied, feigning professionalism. She motioned the chair in front of her desk. "Have a seat."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?